Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
Today, we're diving into 5 major stories. First up, Intel's facing a $100 billion crisis, and a staggering $7 billion loss has them considering a total exit from chip manufacturing, a move that all hinges on one unproven piece of tech. Then, we'll talk about Alphabet. They're cranking up AI spending to a massive $85 billion for their Gemini model, just as a DOJ monopoly lawsuit threatens to derail the whole strategy. After that, we look at Tesla, where a 12% sales plunge has Elon Musk betting the company's entire future on autonomy, even as competitors like BYD are pulling ahead. Fourth, a new UK law is forcing 6,000 websites, including X and Reddit, into age verification. It's a £1.7 billion plan that experts warn could seriously backfire. And finally, we'll explore how Amazon is fighting $103 billion in return fraud by investing in a startup with T-Ray Tech that can literally see inside packages. Intel is staring down a $100 billion question. Should it quit the business of making computer chips? That's the bombshell from the American tech icon, which just warned it could exit chip manufacturing if it fails to secure a major customer. This isn't just a pivot, it's a potential surrender that puts $100 billion in assets on the line. To grasp what's at stake, you have to understand that $100 billion isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It represents massive state-of-the-art semiconductor fabrication plants, or fabs, packed with some of the most specialized and expensive equipment on the planet. And actually, Intel's Foundry business, the part that makes chips for other companies, has been bleeding money, reporting a staggering $7 billion operating loss in 2023 alone. The warning comes after a surprise financial loss and a forecast for an even bigger loss next quarter. The company's stock immediately sank 8% on the news. In response, new CEO Lip-Bu Tan is tearing up the playbook. He's planning more job cuts, halting work on plants in Europe, and slowing development in Ohio. This is a complete reversal of his predecessor's strategy, which was to spend big on new factories. In a memo to employees, the new CEO was blunt, writing, "There are no more blank checks." This all comes down to one high-stakes gamble. The company says its next generation 14, a chip process, will only move forward if a major external customer commits. If not, the plan could be scrapped. So securing that one big customer becomes the ultimate test of trust. Think about it. Tech giants like Apple, Nvidia, or Qualcomm have built their empires on the rock-solid reliability of the Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC. TSMC isn't just a manufacturer. It's a proven, mature ecosystem that dominates the market. Asking a company to switch to Intel's new, unproven process is a massive risk. They need a guarantee that Intel can deliver on time, at scale, and with perfect quality. Without that first brave customer, no one else will follow. One analyst said it's hard to understate the significance of this, calling it a major moment in the history of the semiconductor industry. This potential retreat creates a direct conflict with the goals of the multi-billion-dollar CHIPS Act, which was designed to bring this exact kind of advanced manufacturing back to the United States and ensure national security. The backdrop to this crisis is a brutal market reality. Intel's current valuation is around $100 billion. Its rival, AMD, is worth more than double that, at over $260 billion. And while Intel's stock has crawled up about 12% this year, AI darling Nvidia has soared 30%. And here's the ultimate irony. If Intel abandons its manufacturing ambitions, the American giant could become even more dependent on its biggest rival, the Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC. Such a move would fundamentally change the power dynamics of the entire industry. Intel would go from being a vertically integrated powerhouse that designs and builds its own chips to just another customer in line at TSMC's factories, competing for limited production capacity against the very same rivals. Like AMD and Nvidia, it's trying to beat the company that defined American chip leadership for decades is now fighting for its very identity. The question is no longer just about profit, but survival. Intel's high-stakes gamble is all about manufacturing, but they're not the only tech giant making an enormous bet. Another player just dropped an absolutely bombshell spending figure, raising their 2025 forecast by $10 billion to a staggering $85 billion. This isn't just about buying more computers, It's a full-blown AI infrastructure arms race, and that $85 billion is the ammunition. We're talking about a massive physical build-out of data centers that consume incredible amounts of resources. The International Energy Agency predicts that by the end of the decade, data centers could consume up to 4% of all the electricity on the planet. Believe it or not, training just one major AI model can also consume hundreds of thousands of liters of water for cooling. That's the true cost of this AI war. That company is Alphabet, and they're signaling they are going all in on the AI race. For months, Google was seen as falling behind rivals like Microsoft, but as one top analyst put it, Google came back fighting this quarter, and their massive bet is paying off. Their cloud computing revenue just jumped almost 32%, smashing expectations. Their Gemini AI model has rocketed past 450 million monthly users, and that user number is more significant than it looks. It's not just big, it's growing at a breakneck speed. The data shows that daily usage of the Gemini app has surged by over 50% just since the last quarter. And inside its other products, like Google Workspace, AI is delivering over 2 billion assists every single month. That's the return on investment they're seeing. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point is the shadow hanging over all this success. Despite this surge, Alphabet's stock is up less than 1% this year. Meanwhile, its main competitors, Microsoft and Meta, have soared over 20%. So, what's going on? While the AI engine is firing on all cylinders, the company is being weighed down by major regulatory battles looking to break up what some call an illegal monopoly in search and advertising. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. The US Department of Justice is proposing serious remedies. They're suggesting that Google could be forced to divest or sell off its investments in other AI companies. The goal is to prevent Google from using its massive search and advertising power to unfairly dominate the next wave of AI technology. This is a direct threat to their growth strategy. Now, experts say on paper, Google has all the right tools to lead in AI with cutting-edge models and massive distribution. But a huge part of their advantage comes from something most people have never heard of: custom-built computer chips. Google designs its own AI chips called TPUs, or Tensor Processing Units. Their newest chip, Trillium, delivers nearly 5 times the computing performance of its predecessor and is 67% more energy efficient. This vertical integration, where they control the hardware and the software, is a massive competitive advantage over rivals who have to buy chips from third parties. That leads to the final critical question. With fears that their own AI could cannibalize their core search business and legal fights mounting, can the tech giant overcome its own internal risks to truly win the AI war? When you search for something and Google's AI gives you a direct answer at the top, you're less likely to click on the ads or the blue links below. One study found that when these AI overviews are present, the click-through rate on paid ads drops from over 21% down to less than 10%. That's a huge potential hit to their main source of revenue, and it's a problem they created themselves. It really puts the true battle Google is fighting into perspective. Speaking of internal risks, another tech giant is facing a crisis that's much more public. Tesla just posted its biggest sales drop in at least a decade. The electric car giant is in a tailspin, with sales plunging 12%, profits shrinking 16%, and the company's share price falling roughly 30% from its peak last year. To understand the pressure they're under, you need to look at a crucial piece of their financial puzzle that often gets overlooked. For years, a significant chunk of Tesla's profits didn't come from selling cars, but from selling government-mandated regulatory credits to other automakers who weren't meeting emission standards. In fact, this brought in over $2.5 billion in 2024 alone. That income stream is about to disappear as policy changes kick in, with analysts predicting it will vanish completely by 2027. This is a huge financial cliff, and it's happening right as sales are slowing down. But it's not just the numbers that have investors on edge. The core of the problem, according to insiders and analysts, is Elon Musk himself. His political activities and so-called shenanigans are being blamed for denting the brand's passionate support. And this isn't just speculation. Research shows that when a CEO becomes politically polarized, it can have a direct financial impact. One study found that politically charged statements from a CEO often lead to immediate negative stock returns. It creates a risk that boards find incredibly difficult to manage, especially with a founder CEO whose identity is so tied to the company. The situation has gotten so tense that one major investor wrote to the company's board demanding they determine if Musk's political ambitions are even compatible with his role as chief executive. When a well-known analyst urged the board to impose guardrails, Musk's public response on social media was 2 words: "Shut up, Dan." And the criticism is now coming from inside the tent. A former top Tesla executive for Europe just went on the record about the company's long-delayed promises of a cheaper car. He pointed back to Musk's secret master plan from 2006, saying, "That's almost 20 years ago now. We're still sitting at the tip of our chairs waiting for the cars that he's promising." Now, about that long-promised cheaper car, the delay isn't just about promises. It's about massive engineering challenges. Tesla had a revolutionary plan called gigacasting to build the car's body from a single giant piece of metal. But they recently retreated from that idea, likely to save money and avoid delays, opting for a more conventional 3-piece method. It shows just how hard it is to build an affordable EV while your profit margins are already under immense pressure. So what's Musk's answer to the crisis? He's betting the entire company on one thing: self-driving software. He told investors, autonomy is what amplifies the value of the company to stratospheric levels. This is a monumental gamble because the technology faces huge roadblocks, especially in major markets like Europe. The EU has incredibly strict rules, which Musk himself has called Kafkaesque, that limit what autonomous systems can do. Getting full self-driving approved there requires navigating a bureaucratic maze that makes this bet even riskier. This all begs the question, as profits shrink and competition heats up, is full autonomy the silver bullet that saves Tesla? Or is it just the latest promise from a master plan that's now nearly 2 decades old? When we place Tesla's progress alongside its Chinese competitors like BYD and XPeng, the challenge becomes clear. For example, BYD's Blade battery is considered safer and more durable than Tesla's. Meanwhile, XPeng's self-driving system is already available on all roads across China, a feat Tesla has yet to achieve there. So the competition isn't just catching up. In some ways, they're already leading. Tesla's struggles in Europe highlight the power of regulation. And speaking of which, a massive new social experiment is unfolding in the UK. The story begins with a decision that caught many by surprise. A staggering 6,000 websites, including major porn sites and social media giants like X and Reddit, are now being forced to verify that their UK users are over 18. This is a massive, unprecedented move being rolled out by the UK's media regulator, Ofcom. Its chief executive, Dame Melanie Dawes, went on the record stating that, quote, "No other country had pulled off getting so many platforms to commit to age checks. The technology behind it includes things like facial age estimation, where an AI analyzes your face to guess your age." But interestingly enough, research shows these AI systems can be less accurate than humans, especially for women and even for people who are smiling. Other methods include using digital ID wallets, checking credit cards, or even using mobile phone network data. The government is framing it as a simple common sense rule, asking why you get age checked for an energy drink but not for explicit online content. But what's not being heavily discussed is the staggering cost. The UK government's own impact assessment estimates this will cost British businesses about £1.7 billion. This could create a huge barrier for smaller, independent websites, potentially killing off competition. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. On the very first day of the new rules, reports are surfacing that some major porn sites are not even enforcing them. The plan is already hitting a wall, and the criticism is getting fierce. The Molly Rose Foundation, a charity founded by the family of a teenager who took her own life after viewing harmful content, delivered a bombshell statement. They accused the regulator of prioritizing, quote, "the business needs of big tech over children's safety," claiming the rules aren't strong enough to force real change. Experts are now warning this could backfire, potentially pushing users away from regulated sites and toward more dangerous, unpoliced corners of the internet. We have real-world evidence of this happening. It's what experts call the waterbed effect. You push down in one area and the problem just pops up somewhere else, often worse. For example, after the US state of Utah passed a similar law in 2023, demand for VPNs tools that hide your location and bypass these blocks skyrocketed by an insane 967%. It shows determined users will often find a way around these gates. Then there's the privacy question. You know, you're often dealing with a third-party age verification company. These companies have a business model built on this exact process. They promise to protect your privacy, often claiming they delete your data instantly. But dig into the privacy policies and you'll find that some of that sensitive data, like a scan of your ID, can be kept for up to 28 days. This creates a massive new trove of personal data that could be a prime target for hackers. This is a massive social experiment playing out in real time. The UK is making a bold move to protect children, but with major players already lagging and charities sounding the alarm, it all begs one critical question. In the battle to make the internet safer, has the UK just unleashed a whole new set of risks? The UK is betting on new tech to solve a societal problem, but that same dynamic is playing out in the corporate world. Amazon, for example, is turning to some seriously futuristic tech to combat a massive fraud issue. Let's start with a single statistic that might just change your perspective on online shopping. Retailers lost an absolutely staggering $103 billion last year from a surprisingly simple scam. Shoppers request a refund, but instead of sending back the merchandise, they return an empty package or a box of unrelated junk. Research shows that this type of fraud now accounts for nearly 14% of all retail returns. It's a massive industry-wide problem. Now, Amazon is fighting back, investing in a startup with technology that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. The company, Cambridge Terahertz, has developed a 3D imaging system that can see inside unopened packages, instantly spotting if the contents don't match. They've essentially shrunk an airport-style security scanner down to a chip-based system that can fit in your hand. Now, get this. The system uses something called terahertz waves, or T-rays. These waves can easily pass through materials like cardboard, plastic, and ceramics, allowing the scanner to see the internal structure of what's inside. This is how it can tell the difference between a real iPhone and a sophisticated fake that has the same weight and dimensions it can spot if the internal components are wrong. However, it does have limits. T-rays are blocked by metal and absorbed by water, so it's not a perfect X-ray vision for everything. Amazon's $1 billion industrial innovation fund just participated in a $12 million investment in the startup. The head of the fund, Franziska Bossart, says the technology aligns well with Amazon's needs and that the ability to see into boxes could be integrated at various points in their massive operations network. This isn't just about stopping fraud, it's about competitive dominance. If Amazon successfully masters this technology, it could create what's called a technological moat, an advantage so significant that competitors like Walmart or Target would find it nearly impossible to catch up. Amazon wouldn't just be solving its own problem, it would be solving a $100 billion industry problem in a way no one else can. But here's a critical question we have to ask. What does this mean for the customer? This technology shifts the burden of proof. What happens if you're an honest customer, but the automated system makes a mistake and flags your legitimate return as fraudulent? The risk of false positives is very real. In fact, a recent survey found that over half of all organizations that implement new anti-fraud tech say that dealing with too many false positives is a major challenge. But the story doesn't stop with online shopping. This technology was originally conceived as a way to detect concealed weapons by seeing through materials like clothing. The startup has already secured 4 government contracts and has been in discussions with US Customs and Border Protection about using the system to detect fentanyl shipments at the border. This might make you wonder why a startup with potential national security applications would prioritize a partnership with Amazon. So the thing is, it often comes down to speed and money. Government contracts can be incredibly slow and tangled in red tape, which can be a death sentence for a young company. Corporate venture capital, like Amazon's fund, offers a much faster path to funding and real-world deployment, making it a strategic choice for these dual-use technology companies. From stopping return fraud to potentially finding illegal drugs, it all comes down to one powerful capability. Amazon's goal is to know exactly what's inside every box. The real question is, what else will this technology allow them to see? We are entering an era where the regulatory frameworks that govern data privacy are struggling to keep up with the pace of technology, and this is a perfect example.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.